Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Today I thought I'd do some earrings. I haven't done any earrings for a while, and as usual, my earrings sort of tend towards a little bit on the Art Deco side. I don't always intend it to be that way, but they do. And these ones are no different, but I think they'll be pretty. I made one as a prototype to see how it would turn out, and I think I like it. It's based off of what looked to be an earring I saw somewhere online that appeared to have been stamped out with some sort of a die. And I did something similar because it definitely had that Art Deco kind of look to it, and I really liked that. But I wanted to see if I could recreate something similar just using wire and sheath and stuff like that. I added some stones. I picked out some pretty Baltic Amber ovals, and I think they'll make for pretty accents, and we'll give it a try. But before we do that, I wanted to thank some groups of people. My patrons over on Patron are my core group of supporters, and I couldn't do this without their help. I truly appreciate the atmosphere that they've created over there, as well as the financial support. They're a bunch of cool people, and I really appreciate all they've done for me, so thank you for that. The other group are my YouTube subscribers, and we've just passed 26,400, which is amazing. Thank you for that. I love the great comments you guys leave. I appreciate the comments, and I love hearing your story or constructive criticism. The way you do things is always nice to hear. I learn a lot from you all, so thanks for that. I do really also appreciate the financial support, the buy me a coffees, the super thanks, buying my merch or my ebooks. That kind of stuff keeps my channel sustainable, and I couldn't do it without your help, so thank you for that. All right, well, let's get started on these earrings. So this is one of my design idea sketchbooks you can get on my merch store. This particular one has some information about melting temperatures or flow temperatures of different kinds of solder. The real feature for me on these books is the dot matrix in the background. It allows me to draw better pictures. And I like having a nice picture to work from when I start doing a project anymore. It's also become invaluable to me as far as keeping track of the projects I've made and how I did it. I have a perpetual record now if I want to go back and revisit that, so it's nice to have that. I started doing that when I started the YouTube channel. This is not exactly what I'm going to do. I altered it a little bit. I initially was going to do it in this direction, kind of like this, and amber is going to go right there, but I ended up doing it more like this. I like it better when it's upside down. And so we'll kind of go from there. I modified where this little chevron area is, and it looks a little bit different than that. But I like how it came out. Like I said, I did the one in advance to see how it would look, and then I'll show you how to do it with when we make the second one. The materials we're using, I picked some pattern wire. It's one of these pattern wires you can get from Rayo. It's got some little swirly kind of organic looks to it, and that'll be the center part. And so that'll be there and there. These various pattern wires come in all different sizes and shapes. You can use whichever one you want, probably. There's no particular reason to use this one. I just liked the way it looked with this overall. It's about 3.5 millimeters wide for this one. I'm also going to use the wires that go along next to it here. That's 16 gauge round. It is 1.3 millimeters wide. These side pieces here are going to be flattened square wire. I don't know how flat I need it, but let's measure and find out. I just kind of rolled it through the rolling mill until I got to be about the size that I liked. It ended up being about 3/4 of a millimeter, or 0.78 or 0.79, somewhere there. And that'll be that part right there. So it's going to be a little bit slightly proportionally different than this. For the ring up here, that'll be 16 gauge round, just like this. And then we'll make some 20 gauge ear wires to put on here. The bezel itself, I'm trying to get rid of this 28 gauge real thin bezel that I have. It's fine silver bezel, 28 gauge, and it's 4.76 millimeters tall, or 3/16 of an inch. And the thickness in millimeters is 0.3, I think. You could also use 26 gauge or whatever you want, really. I'm just trying to get rid of this mostly. And since this is a relatively big earring, I wanted to save a little weight anyway. So we'll make a bezel out of this. They don't match perfectly. This one's got some little internal stuff in it, but they're the right size. So this is the one I made the original for. I'll show you it's in the pickle right now. We'll see what it looks like. This has some pickling to do still, but that's kind of what it's going to look like that. And I think it'll be pretty when we have them both done. So to start with, let's make a bezel for this one. And in the meantime, I'm going to let that sit in the pickle for a little longer. And let's get started on this. If you're interested in my setup, my torch and the solder and the flux that I use, here's some information about that. Alright. Like I said, anymore I don't use this 26 too much, or 28 too much, because it's so thin. However, I think on a pair of earrings this will be okay. Amber is a little on the soft side, so you want to be careful when you're tightening things up around it or using your pliers around it. You don't want to scratch it. Amber is fossilized tree resin. This is Baltic Amber, which is kind of the most well-known stuff. It comes from a lot of different places in the world. Some of it looks different than others. The older it is, the more it has changed chemically. And so a lot of times younger ambers they'll call copal. Like, I don't remember exactly how old Baltic Amber is, but it's like 80 million years old or something like that. Versus some from like Colombia that's about 10 million years old. So Amber has been used as a gemstone for thousands of years. It's one of the earlier ones. And it was reasonably popular throughout the ages, but when Jurassic Park came out and they used amber as a source for DNA for dinosaurs, that made it really super popular. And so when that was first released, all sorts of fake amber came onto the market. It's pretty easy to make amber that looks pretty good out of plastic, but there's some different ways to tell it apart. One is if you burn it in an area where it's not going to show. It smells like tree resin if it's real amber. If it smells like plastic, it's plastic. I think it also can maintain an electrical charge if you rub it on some cloth. I seem to remember science experience on that when I was a kid. Alright. I have a little bit of solder over there, so let's get this soldered. Getting kind of a late start tonight. It took me a long while to make that initial one, so I'm glad I decided to do one in advance, so I kind of had practice. And I can use that one for the size, to make it pretty much the same size without having this situation where I make one of them slightly different than the other one. It'll be easier to prevent that from happening. Some real cold weather in the area right now. I hope everybody's staying warm and safe and out of the weather. Not having too much problem with the cold front that's moved in through most of the country here. So I'm just going to shape this a little bit. We got the size pretty good. Alright, let's put a bottom on that. I found a little bit of scrap sheet. This is somewhere between 22 and 26, maybe about 24 gauge. On the other one I used some 26, but I found a little piece of scrap, so I'm just going to use this one here. That's okay. I rolled it through the rolling mill a little bit to thin it out. Let's solder this on there. Alright, I'm going to throw a few pieces in there, make sure they're touching the sides. I think this is probably going to be about an intermediate project. You know, someone who's been doing this for 6 or 8 months might want to try taking this on. If you've really got a feel for soldering, you're probably good to go. Okay, as long as you got a seam all the way around, let's go ahead and trim off the excess. So once you got it flush like that, we can start thinking about the... I'm going to set these over here so I don't scratch them. And I cut a piece of this. This is that pattern wire, and I rounded the top of it. And I think it's about the right size. I'm going to... Alright. So, you can kind of get an idea. This one's about the right length. So that's great. So now I need to cut myself 3 of those pieces of 16 gauge round wire, which is this stuff right here. And they need to be, well, make them a slightly longer than I need. That way I can trim them off just to the right size. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to take a moment and just try and get them nice and straight. Now if you look at this one, I got the first 2, this one and this one. Let's make a mark on this. So we have it about the same distance down from here. So we want them to come up to about right there. But I may solder them a little bit further up than that, just so that we can trim them down to that length so we get them right. And then this other one is about, let's say, it's about 5 millimeters below the other one, or 6 below the top. Oops, that's not the one I need. That one needs to go for the other one. That's pretty close. I'm going to cut a little bit smaller pieces of solder for this one. You don't want to have any clumpiness. Everybody likes clumpiness on their earrings. People on the internet would say, don't go to Chad's channel. He makes clumpy earrings. If you are new to my channel, I have a lot of content on the main channel page if you want to check it out. There's getting close to 600 videos now. I've been doing 3 per week for about 4 years. Oh, by the way, this is pick soldering, where I pick up a little bit of solder on the end of my titanium pick here. And then we'll heat the thing up to where it's about the right temperature for solder to flow. This is hard silver sheet solder, so it's about 1450 degrees Fahrenheit. Oops. Chad dropped the ball. So I'm going to heat this up to that temperature. I think it's pretty close, and we'll just pop that in there. As long as the pieces you're trying to solder together get to that temperature, it should stick to both of them. And it does have a tendency to wick along seams like that, which is kind of nice. Come on. Don't be that way. There we go. Okay. It'll be kind of like this. And like that. Solder it onto this thing, but I don't want any of the solder to get into that pattern on that pattern wire. So let's do it on the magnesia block here. If I push this in just a little bit. This is a softer surface. Alright, and I still have some solder over here, so I should be able to pick that in there. Oh, if you're interested in a video about pick soldering, there's a link to one right there. It's one of those skills that really made it easier to do a whole bunch of stuff for me. So, possibly the most important skill I learned when I was learning how to do this. So, you might consider checking that out. I jumped on the back on that one. Which means I either missed where I touched it, or I didn't have everything up to temperature at the time. See if we can get one right in that crack there. Cool that off a little bit. Here's a little trick you can do if you want to make sure things are the same. If I mark this with a marker, actually I'm going to need to do it down here as well. It'll make it easier for me to calculate exactly how to cut it to fit on here nicely. So if I line this up top to top there, make sure everything's pretty straight. I should be able to take something and scratch a mark where those need to be cut off. Okay, so I'm going to get this kind of lined up on this one. And this will help me to figure out where to put this piece. It looks like it needs to be just barely past where that where this middle piece ends. So we'll do our best to get it kind of centered and straight. Okay, so I think I'm going to take my saw and just saw along there. I'll be right back. This is a double zero blade. So alright, let's go see how close we are. Okay, so I think the easiest way to attach this is I'm going to sweat a little bit of solder on the outside of this bezel. And then we'll just push it right in there and solder the two together. And then I need to cut some pieces to go along this one. And so I think if I cut them about the same size, they should be about right. You want to make sure to get that as straight as you can. Now I'm going to just go cut that out just like I did the other one. I'll be back. Now I have some of this stuff. And look at how far down we did this. Close to about that gives me enough room to trim it off. So I'm going to make a mark right where this bezel is because I need to take a little bit out of there. So I'm just going to file this in just a little bit right here. Okay, so I've pushed those in like this. I've got them cut down to where they match up a little better. So let's flux those and see if we can get those soldered on. Okay, let's cool that off and take a peek at it. So we should be able to kind of line these up. That would be pretty close. Those are pretty symmetrical, not too bad. So I'm going to add this jump ring and then add this little chevron thing up here. I have another jump ring here that I made earlier. Okay, now for the second one I need to make a little chevron like this. What I did was I just took the corner of my master file and found kind of a diagonal notch. And just bend it at that notch point. Try to get it same angle as this one. It's pretty close. So let's solder that together and also sweat some solder on the surface here. Okay, we just need to solder this on now. I bumped it, I should make sure it's still positioned right. What do you think? Did we get it on there? That's not coming up. I think we're okay. As long as it's reasonably straight. Of course, it's probably a little off. those ones pickle, and I'll make some, I need to make some 20 gauge round, I think, for ear wires. So I'll be right, after these pickle, I'll polish them up, and I'll probably set one of the stones, and then we'll get some better pictures. So be back in a bit. Okay, so I went ahead and set this one. I haven't turned the ear wires into French wires yet, but I will. And then I'll get some pictures. But I do this a little differently than some. I use the side of my chain nose pliers that I polished up as a bezel pusher. And then when I'm to that stage where it's laid down nicely, I'm going to use this rounded outer part as my burnishing tool. You want to be careful not to slip and scratch your amber when you're doing something like amber or opal. Okay, so I'll turn those into ear wires, but that's, well, not exactly what I drew. It's the kind of feel that I wanted to get. So I think those are pretty cool. I don't know, someone will like them. And they kind of are Art Deco-y, I think. So I'll get some better pictures. Let me know what you think. Let me know what kind of tricks you use. I'm always glad to find out different ways to do things. So again, thanks. Well, that was the Baltic Amber in sort of an Art Deco-y sort of style earrings. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, make sure to hit the like button before you go. That really helps to get my channel promoted. And I would love it if you'd visit my main channel page on YouTube here. I've been doing it for 4 years at 3 per week, so there's quite a bit of content over there. Check it out, watch a few. I think there's almost certainly something else you'll find useful. And I'd love it if you'd subscribe to my channel. There's no cost to that, and it really helps me out a lot, so I'd love it if you did that too. Don't forget to visit the video description down below. There's some important links there if you're interested in my Patreon, which is another great community with multiple tiers of membership. That is a nice place with a bunch of cool people. We do some things like live streams and exclusive videos. They get to vote on topics and things like that. It's a really nice artistic community, and I've come to really appreciate the people over there, so you might want to check it out. There's a link to my newest ebook, which is covers all of the videos from 2025, and for each video there's a page, and it includes a picture of the sketch that I drew at the beginning, the final product, a list of materials, a difficulty rating, information about the stone if there's a stone in it, and some notes I took about the project, including things like would I do it differently after I completed the project, or did I learn something, or did I feel like it was a failure or a success, you know, that kind of stuff. And there's also a link to the video itself, so it's a great way to have a bunch of projects right at your fingertips, and a really nice way to support my channel, so I appreciate that if you choose to do that. You can even get all 3 of the years that I have done that for, 2023, 2024, and 2025, for a discount. I think you save $15 if you get all 3 of them. So check it out. Thanks for watching today. Take care. Happy silversmithing.